This podcast is part of the Pull Up a Chair podcast network. Let's build community through connection, conversation, and collaboration. This podcast is sponsored by Lever Consulting, editing with a purpose. Check them out at leverconsulting.com for a free consultation.
Hey, I'm Ryan.
And I'm V.
And you're listening to Cringe With Me, the podcast where we dig up the cringiest articles, questions, and tidbits of human culture to review with you, our listeners, so you too can cringe with me.
I'm hypocritical, but at least I know we could be beautiful or maybe terrible.
Alright, so if you guys didn't listen to last week's episode, I think it might have been the cringiest episode we've ever posted.
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
Yeah, so I don't know if this post that I'm going to talk about today is cringier, but it's definitely sadder.
Oh, going down the sad road?
We're going the sad route. I got Miss Abby here, and we're going to read another advice column.
Alright, get your handkerchief for... Does anyone have a handkerchief anymore? That's not even a thing.
No.
I've never even owned a handkerchief. I don't even... That saying is in my head, like get your handkerchief when you're sad, but I only know one person that uses them.
Oh, you know a second, because I'm trying to be more eco-friendly.
Oh, okay.
But I just use regular towels.
Okay. Alright. DIY handkerchief.
Yeah,
Got it.
DIY
Cool,
handkerchief.
cool.
Because, anyways, we're getting off topic already.
Yeah.
We haven't even started. Alright, so, Dear Abby, should I date others while my wife is bedridden with severe dementia?
I'm sorry, what?
Dear Abby, should I date others while my wife is bedridden with severe dementia?
I am already unhappy with this, so continue.
Okay.
I guess.
Every now and then they have like a subheader. The subheader is, man visits often, but also craves companionship, and wonders how to explain the situation to his new lady.
So it's already happened. He's asking for permission after the fact. Always a good sign.
Yeah, okay. Dear Abby, my wife and I have been married for 40 beautiful years. 15 years ago, she was diagnosed with cancer and given 18 months to live. Well, she's still around. Because of this illness and experimental medications, she was bedridden. And eventually, her dementia grew steadily worse.
Wait, dementia? I thought she had cancer.
Well then.
I guess it was brain cancer? I don't know. This is very interesting. Continue.
Left with no other options because of problems with insurance, I placed her into a nursing facility 6 years ago.
Okay.
I am still at an age at which I have and hope to have many active years ahead of me. I visit her often and I have a need for companionship that she obviously can no longer fulfill. I am friends with a few women, usually friends of friends, and from time to time have the urge to be a little closer. Mm-hmm. I go out to dinners, music venues, art shows, etc. I am torn between living the remainder of my days in loneliness or in the pursuit of new possibilities. Is it wrong to want companionship in my situation? At what point should I explain my situation without scaring off a nice new lady? Your opinion would be helpful to me to have another perspective. From Anonymous, of course.
Wow. This is sad. And I feel for this person, and I'm honestly a little torn on what the right thing to do here is.
Right.
Dementia is pretty rough.
Yep, it's really rough. It steals a person from their personhood.
Yeah, you can't have a that kind of relationship with them anymore, right?
No.
Like especially if like, that's the point where they don't even know who you are. Like, what do you do in that? Like, I can understand maybe even being in a place where like, I don't necessarily want to divorce them. Maybe there's issues with medical insurance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you do that, that could be potentially very dangerous. So like, be in this position of like, well, I don't want to divorce this person. I still care about them, but they're not them anymore.
Yeah.
And we can't have a relationship anymore. So how do I go about moving on with my life without screwing over this person that
I had loved for
Yeah.
years.
like, wow, that's a lot to unpack. This does not feel cringy. This feels sad and very morally complicated.
Yes, which every now and then we do. We do find something morally complicated and we argue. Let's hear what Abby had to say to...
I'm very curious. I don't think I can predict what she's going to say here.
Dear Anonymous, what happened to your wife is unfortunate, and you both have my sympathy. Waiting and needing companionship are totally normal. Or wanting and needing companionship are totally normal. It is important to ask yourself, if the situation were reversed and you were in the nursing home suffering from dementia, to what extent would you want your wife to go on with her life? Whatever you decide, that is, it is critical for you to not forget that you have a responsibility to make sure that she is being well taken care of. This means visiting her often to ensure that she's okay, because dementia patients do better when someone they know loves them comes around, even if they don't recognize them. As to how to explain this to a new woman that you are married and, well, one of your friends' friends should already know that. ...
Yeah.
And those who you meet who don't know the situation should be told at some point, of course, during one of your first few serious conversations. It's the honorable thing to do.
I agree. Is that the end of her response?
That's the end of her response.
I mean, I agree with her. I think that what he's doing, I think it can be ethically justified, right? I think there's an okay way to do this, especially as considering like the situation. Like, I think if you're not abandoning that person, and I think that a lot of people would be understanding of that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I would. Like, if I started to see somebody and they were like, I need to let you know something. Like, pretty early on, they're like, hey, I am married, but my spouse has had dementia for 15 years. They don't recognize anything. I still take care of them. We're married for obvious reasons, like because of financial stuff and health insurance. So I can't really change that situation, but I'm also still looking for this thing because that's my situation. I think if someone told me that, I'd be like, yeah, I can understand that. Like, I get that. And I mean, like, it's obviously unusual. It'd be an interesting space to explore, but I would hope that someone would be open to that, because I feel like I would be open to figuring that out with them. Like, right, trying to navigate that space.
Yeah. Especially if you care about the person.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an immediate no for me. It'd be I have to think about this and kind of figure out the situation.
Yeah. And I feel like timing for that conversation is like important. It shouldn't be your first conversation with them, but it shouldn't be like 2 years down the road.
Right. It's somewhere in the space of, if you think this is going to be more than friendship, that's when you talk about it.
Yeah.
Would be my personal approach.
Man, and it's just like, I know everybody like looks at the notebook and they're like, oh, but they'll somewhere deep down. It's like, no, they literally have holes in their brain that is causing them to lose functionality.
Yeah, even when people with dementia have moments of lucidity, it never comes all the way back. Like,
that's not how dementia works. She's never gonna get better. And it's like, it's so sad and it's so heartbreaking. And it's like, what would be even more sad is if he kept trying to get the things that he needs out of a relationship out of her and scaring her absolutely shitless for years on end. Like, that's torture.
Yeah.
Because eventually he's not going to look how her brain would remember him looking. And so a man that looks like that, taking you out on the town, kissing you, touching you in ways that it would be horrifying. It would be frightening.
Yeah. There's clear reasons why that intimacy can't happen.
Yeah. So
right?
like, for all intents and purposes, that part of that relationship is dead.
Yeah. And like, there are non-traditional marriages and relationships out there, right?
Yeah, he can still continue to love her deeply and visit her and be her financial husband. but she can't be his emotional companion anymore.
Yeah. This almost feels like what happens in some marriages where they're like, hey, we want to stay together because the family aspect of our life is good and we really like having our kids have us still a home, but we're not really into each other anymore, and they start seeing other people. Like they'll both maybe start dating someone else, but like they keep that kind of private and to themselves, and they still have this connection, this familial and important and loving connection often. Like those things happen, and like there's a lot of, it might be weird and it might sound like uncomfortable to some people, but for some people this is what works for them and what makes them happy. And I can see being in the situation being like, yeah, you don't, your options are pretty limited.
No, and it's really hard because you can't even like ask her consent anymore.
Right.
Because a person with dementia cannot consent.
No. And so it's just a very awkward situation where it's like, yeah, I mean, your options are leave this person, which might hurt them financially, medically, whatever, or continue to be a part of their life, but still continue to live yours.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an ethically challenging space, but I actually think that it's okay.
Yeah. Like, I read this and my first was, you jerk! I can't call him a jerk.
No.
I want to be mad at him, but you can't. You seriously can't.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Because if I were her, I definitely would want my partner to move on with his life. I mean, please still bring me my favorite food so I can have those moments of joy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. For me, everyone has different opinions on this kind of thing. My opinion on it is that if I were to ever become like, I want to be put down. I do not want to live with dementia.
If that was an option, that would be great.
Yeah.
I totally agree, but that's not an option.
No, not yet.
No,
Hopefully someday.
If that was an option, I'd go for that. But if it's not an option.
Yeah. I would want my partner to move on. Yeah. I would definitely want that. I'm like, if I'm ever in a coma or I get dementia, whatever, move on with your life.
Yeah, no, I have a pulling the plug policy in my life. If I need to be on life support, pull it, but that's the only medically legal euthanasia that there is.
Right.
Which is, I personally find very wrong.
Yeah, that we can get in a whole different ethical discussion about doctor-assisted suicide and all of that. But
it should be up to the patient when they are lucid.
Right. And that's why for me, I'm like, I would want it, like, because you can have a DNR. Mm-hmm. I feel like there should be a version of a DNR that people can sign where it's like, if I get dementia, I'm done. You can take me out. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm not me anymore at that point. So I don't need to exist.
Yeah, like, let my organs go to somebody who needs them. Exactly. And then plant the rest of me into a tree, and I will be the happiest of campers.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I think that, like, we can get into the ethics of that someday. Yeah, if we want. But
in terms of what the romantic partner prior to the dementia does, I still like, I know it sounds incredibly selfish, but I want somebody to at least check in on me every now and then, because I know how like horribly abused people in nursing homes can be when they don't have a regular person signing the guest book. Mm-hmm. I'm here to see so and so.
Sure, there is that aspect. I think for me, I understand that emotional attachment to that, and like I can understand wanting that. But I think a part of me can't let go of the realism of like, if I'm not going to know about it, it doesn't matter.
Just sign the book.
I'm just not conscious of it. So I'm like, if I've got dementia and I'm just not aware of who you are or that you're coming to visit me, it doesn't mean anything to me. And so to me, I'm like, no, don't even waste your time. Like, don't bother. If you want to, that's fine. But don't feel like you have to because of me. I'm good.
Well, I mean, you're not you at that point anymore. I don't want my body to be checked in on. That's what it really is. It's my body is left to the hands of strangers, and that makes me nervous because I've seen how horrible it can be. Sure,
and I get that, right? That makes sense.
But it's more of like a bodily safety than an emotional connection, because I won't have an emotional connection anymore.
That's fair. This is a vessel, and if the spirit inhabiting this vessel departs, the vessel's not important anymore. I'm good. Like, you can do whatever you want with it. It's not important.
So here is your weekly bummer.
Yeah. Oof.
Hopefully next week's episode will be less bummer, more cringe.
I mean, probably it'll be mine, and I've got a few cringe ones coming up.
Oh, looking forward to it. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye. All right, well, I'm Ryan, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram under Build, Write, Roll, where I post about my professional Dungeon Master experiences. You can check out the links in the description if you're interested in hiring a professional DM or looking to level up your own DM skills.
And you can find me, V, at Cringe Queen at Instagram and Twitter, or check me out on YouTube as the Queen of Cringe, and be embarrassed with me.
All right. Well, thanks for listening and cringing along with us.
And we'll catch you next time with more awesome cringe content.
I'm hypocritical, but at least I know we could be beautiful or maybe terrible. Only one way to know. Only one way to know.
Hello, I am Patrick,
And I'm Andrew. And I'm Christian.
And I'm Allie.
and we are Rad Theater, a podcast where a bunch of friends play role-playing games and share a single brain cell, and the GM doesn't always have it. Oh, and it's theater spelled the correct way, Theatre.